Hello everybody, I am SHEAHDUMB 17, and for this video I will be talking about the Fantastic Four, the 2005 version. So I don't know, I just wanted to watch it. I heard a lot of people saying that they didn't like this version, so I wanted to rewatch it to see if I still liked it or if I did like it. I'm gonna start and get into this video, so I hope you enjoy. Let's get started. We first see a big statue in front of this business building, and then we see two of the main characters, Reed and Ben. So they're talking, they're conversating. After that, we go straight to a boardroom. Reed is talking to a man about using his resources to go to space to find some research to help like humans and stuff with like diseases and all that. While we're in the boardroom, we find out that the guy that is sitting there listening to the conversation is Victor. He is not really interested in this deal. He calls out Reed for being bankrupt. It's a whole thing. So they're talking. It doesn't seem like it's going well until Susan walks in, and she first greets Ben. It's like, hey, how are you? And then Susan looks at Reed, and it's awkward. And in the scene, you know, there's contact clues, and you know, they dated, and it's awkward. She don't look happy. He looks concerned. It's a whole thing. They're still in the boardroom. They're talking, and basically Victor says that he will invest in this research if he takes like 75% and Reed takes the rest. Susan is looking at him like, and Ben is looking at him too, like, what? Why would you take that deal? But they do. Also, when all four of them were in the boardroom, it was assumed that Susan and Victor are like a couple, but it was giving like weird vibes. I don't know. They leave that boardroom area or whatever. Ben is kind of concerned, and he's telling Reed, hey, do you think this is a good idea? But Reed is like, it's a perfect idea, and then they go. We go back to the boardroom, and we see Victor, and he's talking to his, I'm gonna call him his minion. So his minion is in there, he walks in, and they start talking about like the research and stuff, and Victor's basically like, he doesn't know what he got, so it's gonna be great. We go into this elevator scene, and it's Susan, Ben, and Reed. Ben is in the back, and Susan and Reed is right in front of him. And they start talking. It's awkward. So basically in that scene, we see Reed like go behind Ben, and he starts talking about Ben flying the spaceship to space. But Susan tells him that they already have a pilot, and that is Johnny. Ben is upset because Johnny is like the cool guy, and he doesn't like the rules. And Ben wants to fly the ship. It's the day of the spaceship adventure time, and they're in this like locker room. Johnny, Ben, and Reed are all in there, and they are getting ready. That's when Susan walks in, and she has like this tight suit on. She starts talking about the suit, and Reed kind of like looks in her direction and is like amazed and stuff. She's like kind of, but then she realizes the only reason why he's looking amazed in her direction is because of the suit. After that conversation, Susan gives them their individual suits, and you know, she is like very polite with Johnny and Ben, and then she like chucks it at Reed, which was hilarious. We're on the ship now. So it's Reed, Ben, Johnny, Susan, and Victor's there as well. They are talking and stuff. Reed, Ben, and Victor have this like weird interaction because Victor is trying to like, you know, mess with Ben. A lot of people are messing with Ben. He's just chilling. But, you know, he's trying to be like, oh, you're just a tough guy and all this stuff, just being rude. Victor asks the guys if they can leave so he can talk to Susan. He and Susan like go to this area in the spaceship, and you can see the outside of the spaceship, so it's kind of cool. Victor is trying to propose to Susan. And Susan, she doesn't look interested. Then we go to Reed, and he's like doing his calculations and all this stuff. They thought that they had 7 hours to really do what they need to do, but apparently not. And now they have minutes. So he's freaking out. Ben and Johnny, they're talking. During that conversation, Johnny helps Ben into his space suit, and then Ben goes to outer space. And when he leaves, I love this part. Johnny's like, I don't know. It could just be because it's Chris Evans, but I don't know. Anyway, so after that, then we go back to Victor and Susan. They're talking, and Susan is kind of like, ooh. And before Victor is about to like actually propose, Reed comes in and he's like, we have a problem. Susan goes up there to check the calculations as well to see if everything's okay. And Reed tells Victor, hey, should we abort this mission because things are going bad? But Victor's like, no, we still need the research, you know, being selfish. So Reed runs to warn Johnny and Ben what is happening. He is like talking to Ben over this speaker, and he's like, hey, look, you need to get into the ship. And Ben's like making jokes and stuff. I think he called him an egghead. I don't know. But they're like, look up, and it's this weird red cloud. So Ben has to jump while in space back into the ship. Susan is talking to Victor and is like, we need to help them. And Victor's like, no, like, I'm selfish, so I'm not gonna do that. So Susan runs in the other guy's direction. Victor locks himself in an area, and Ben makes it into the spaceship, but the red cloud still kind of gets them. So they all are hit. And it's this weird CGI scene where they're like changing, and you don't see Ben's, but you see Reed, Johnny, and Susan. So next scene, we see Johnny, and it's from Ben's perspective. So Johnny is like, hey, we're in quarantine. I'm sorry. We tried to fix your face. We did everything we can. It just, something bad happened. So Ben is like, what? What do you mean? So Johnny gives him the mirror, and his face is perfectly fine. Johnny is just being annoying. You know, that interaction was funny. Reed goes to visit Susan, and there's like a cute scene where I think it was Victor. Victor got her flowers, like a bunch of flowers, but he got her flowers that she was allergic to. So Reed was there and was like, hey, she really likes sunflowers, so just put it next to her bed. Because he was about to give her a flower, but then he saw all the other flowers, and he was like, oh, all right. So he threw it in the trash. That's so sad. Anyway, but yeah, so Susan wakes up and she sees the sunflowers, and she's like, oh. While that is happening, Victor is talking to some investors. I think, like, at first I thought it was his boss, but I guess they're just some investors. So he's talking to them. They are mad at him because the research didn't go anywhere. The big guy like threatens Victor, and he's like, hey, you have like 45 something. You have, I think it was like 2 days to figure out what's going on, or it's over. We go back to Johnny, and he looks like he's about to go snowboarding. So a nurse comes in, and she's like, hey, what are you doing? You're still in quarantine. And he's like, you know, I want to snowboard. It's this weird scene where Johnny is kind of like flirting with the nurse, and she's like, hey, I need to get your temperature and stuff. So she puts the thermometer in his mouth, and you know, it's high. Like, he is heating up. And this is the thing. She sees that, but she doesn't say anything. I don't know. But then Johnny kisses her, and that's when I thought like they were in a relationship or something, but no. He just kissed a random girl and was like, hey, come snowboarding with me. Like, what? Anyway, later on, they go snowboarding with each other. You know, they're having fun. It's this like cool pop rock music, I think, playing in the background. Then Johnny starts getting on fire, so he freaks out. He falls into the ice, and then it turns into this like bubbling hot tub. And, you know, he burned the clothes off, so he don't got no clothes on. Then we see Ben, and he basically set up a little meeting with Susan and Reed so they can all talk. They go out for dinner at the recovery place. And while they're doing that, Victor is talking to the minion guy, and he starts getting like some powers. So we go back to Ben, Reed, and Susan. They're talking, laughing, enjoying life. But then Ben, he gets a rumbling in his tummy. So, you know, he has to leave. Reed congratulated Susan and Victor on their relationship, and Susan got upset with him. And it turns into a fight. But because of that, Susan gets invisible. I think it's Susan bumps a glass cup, and then Reed goes to like catch it, but his arm stretches. So that's how they get their powers. Johnny runs in with no clothes on, just like a jacket to cover, you know, the bottom area. And so they're like, we need to check up on Ben. So they're running to his recovery home, I don't know. And the door's locked. So Reed decides, since he has a stretchy arm and stuff, he puts his arm under the door. He unlocks it. It was weird. Yeah, so they open the door and Ben is not there, but there's a big hole in the room. So then Victor comes in and he's like, what's going on? And Susan tells Victor that they have powers. So Ben is confused. So he goes to visit his wife, and he calls her on a payphone to tell her to come outside. So she does, and he's like, look, you might be a little scared, but this is me. So he reveals himself, and she freaks out, which I understand, but she runs away, and I feel bad for Ben. The next day happens, and he's sitting on a bridge. And while he's sitting there, he's just like contemplating life and being like, ugh. He's also like a rock, rocks all over his body. So while he's sitting there, a man walks on the bridge part, and he looks like he's about to jump into the water. Ben's like, hey, look at me. You're good. Your life is good. And that scares the man. So he starts walking back. Like, it's kind of dangerous to be walking on that part. So Ben is trying to tell him like, hey, come here. Stop walking backwards. But the man keeps walking backwards. And then he slips and is about to fall. So Ben goes to catch him. They drop onto the bridge, but that causes an accident. So he saves the man. A truck hits Ben. The guy in the truck is now stuck. So Ben goes to get the man out of the truck. People around him are freaking out because they see him, and he's like, oh, he's a rock man. And Reed, Susan, and Johnny find where he's at. I don't know how, but they do. They're trying to find a way to pass the crowd of people because the police are there, and you know, people are there and they're blocking the way. Reed's like, oh, you're invisible. Become invisible. So she does, but she still has clothes on. He's like, just take off the clothes. She takes off her clothes, but then she's still in her bra and underwear. So then she gets fully unclothed while being invisible and walks past everybody. And you know, Johnny's a little traumatized. Everybody uses their power to help someone. So Johnny sees a little girl and she's about to go on fire, so he protects her. Then we see Susan. She uses her power to protect the people that are on top of the bridge from getting burnt because she uses like some invisible cloak thing, which is cool. A fire truck, and it starts driving onto the bridge, but then it somehow starts to fall off the bridge. Reed, with his stretchy hands, sees one of the guys falling down. So he uses his hands to catch the guy. And then Ben grabs the fire truck and pulls it up. So everybody's safe, but the police is still being annoying because they see Ben and he's like a rock. So they're like, ugh. But then the people around him start cheering. And then after Ben saved those people, his wife shows up. shows up on the bridge, takes off her wedding ring, and puts it on the floor. That man is a hero. You could be dating a hero, and that's the same man, but you're gonna take off your ring and put it on the floor? I'm gonna talk about that later. Anyway, so yeah, that happens. And, you know, Ben is sad, so he goes to grab it, but he can't because his hands are huge. So Reed goes over there to help him pick it up. And he promises Ben that he's going to help him become, you know, human again so that he can go back to his wife. You know, I'm gonna say right now, horrible. You marry someone and you say, till death do us part. All these promises. Yes, he's a rock. Yes, that's going to be complicated, but he just saved a bunch of people. So he's the same guy. He just got, you know, superpowers. I don't know. I understand that, you know, the first time she saw him, she freaked out. I would have freaked out. If I was dating someone and then they turned into like something, I would be like, ah, but I don't know. She's just, I don't like her. So after this big event, the Fantastic Four, because that's what they're called, they're in this tent and the police are like, hey, you ready to talk to the press? They're like, what? The other three don't want to do it, but Johnny, being stubborn, he goes out and he is about to talk to the press. But then Reed does. The investors are talking to Victor during this time, and they see that the four who were in the spaceship are now on the news talking about that they have powers. So the investors are upset with Victor and they say, we're not working with you anymore. Victor's upset. Now the four, they're celebrities. They got a police escort. There's people around them laughing, clapping, all this stuff. So they go to Reed's place. And while they are all four walking into the apartment that Reed stays at, we see a mailman. And it's Stan Lee. I miss that man. Every time I see him in a movie, I just get emotional. All four of them go into an elevator. But the elevator says that it is, like, it's maxed out. Ben has to get off. And I felt so bad for him. I was like, that is so messed up. Reed, Susan, and Johnny go into his place. And it's like a home laboratory. It's, yeah. While they're, you know, getting unpacked and stuff, we see Victor. Victor comes in to talk to Susan. He's like, hey, I'm gonna take you with me to my place so I can help you figure out what's going on. And Susan's like, oh, I want to be here with my brother, so I don't think that's a good idea. But we all know why she didn't want to go. Victor is about to leave, and before he does, Reed apologizes to Victor and like, I'm sorry that it didn't work out. And Victor is like, what? You're sorry? All this stuff. Even though Reed told him that they should have left, but he didn't want to listen. Anyway, he's getting a little snippy with Reed. So Ben comes in and he's like, do we got a problem? Victor don't want any of that smoke. So he decides to leave. And he gets angry and hits the elevator walls, but they're metal, so it kind of dents. And he's like, you know, he's shocked. A montage happens and it's like showing their powers. And while Reed is working with Susan and figuring out what she can do, he's telling her to like control her emotions so stuff doesn't happen. And basically she accidentally uses her powers on Reed. And that starts another conversation about their past. And Susan is basically like, we could have had a future together, but you were overthinking it. Victor goes to a doctor to see what's wrong with him. The doctor's like, hey, I don't know what this is, but it could spread to your whole body. You need to figure out how to stop this. And Victor's like, what? What do you mean? Nah. He kind of beats up the doctor and is like, I'm gonna get a second opinion. Susan goes out in public to, I don't know, do something, but she gets recognized. So after that, they decide to not go outside because they have to like protect themselves and everything until Reed makes this storm machine. But they have energy from the red cloud that was on the spaceship. So they're going to use that in the storm machine so that they could go back to being humans. you know, everyone's upset because they still are having these powers and they just want to get back to normal, especially Ben. Another montage happens of them like trying to figure out what's the best way of living with each other. And then we see Johnny. He is tired. He is tired of being in the house, and he sees a motorcycling BMX competition. He goes, and while he's there, he's on the motorcycle and it's live. Reed, Susan, and Ben find out about it. They're upset because they were supposed to stay in the house. So they go to get Johnny, basically. But Johnny's on the bike and he tries to fly to get back on the bike so that it could be like on fire and stuff, but that didn't work out. But they still were cheering and stuff, so it was whatever. And so Johnny's walking out of the motorcycling BMX place and he's like feeling cool, all this stuff. And that's when Susan and Reed come up to him and they're like, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be out here. And Johnny's being all like, oh, you know, it's whatever. Like, I just do my thing. But Ben didn't like that. So he crushed Johnny's car. Like, he threw it in the street, but like a crowd of people were around it, but no one got hurt. So Johnny's upset. And it's like, you destroyed my car, like, ah. So they start verbally fighting. Ben is like, you're being selfish. Johnny's like, I want to do this, it doesn't matter. Johnny makes Ben feel bad because he starts making fun of him and, you know, just doing too much. Susan stops it before it gets really bad. But then while Ben is about to walk away, Johnny says something. So Ben's like, you know what? He goes to punch Johnny. Johnny flies into this like paper thing. So they're about to be in like a huge fight. But then Susan stops it again. She's like, no, no. Ben walks away. He's upset. Susan goes to run after Ben and they start talking. While that's happening, Reed talks to Johnny and he's like, hey, like, what are you doing? We're not supposed to do this. And Johnny's like, oh my, all I want to do is have fun and stuff. Why can't you just have fun? We go back to Susan and Ben talking and Ben is like, I would love to be invisible because everyone is seeing me and it's hard to be like a rock person. All I want to do is be back human. So after that, Ben is upset. So he goes to one of the old bars he always used to go before he got his powers. So he's there, he sits on a stool and it breaks. And the people in there start laughing at him, which rude. But the bartender's like, hey, stop, this is my friend. You better show him respect. Respect in this place. While he's there, we see this girl named Alicia. And Alicia is talking to Ben. She is blind. So he's like, if you saw me, you would be scared too. So she goes up to him and starts like feeling on his face. And she's like, whoa. It's something there. It's definitely something there. Alicia's like, hey, look. Instead of, you know, being sad and stuff, just embrace it. So Victor's upset with Reed and sets up some cameras in his house. I don't know when he did that. Victor is looking at the cameras. And while they're there, he finds out that the way to power up the storm machine is to use his hand. Before he does that, he needs to get Ben out of his way. So Victor and Ben start talking and Victor convinces Ben that, you know, Reed doesn't care about him because he wants to still have his powers so he can still be with Susan. Ben is kind of like, no, that's not the case, blah, 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 blah. We go to Reed. Reed is working on the storm machine and, you know, he is tired. He fell asleep and his face is all messed up. Susan comes in and she's like, hey, let's take a break. And he's like, I can't. But she's like, just let's take a break. They go onto the bridge and they have like a cute moment. Then we go back to Reed's laboratory / house and we see Ben there. Ben sees Reed and Susan. He gets upset and he's like, oh wow, you want to be with her. Why aren't you working on the storm machine? And Reed's like, I just took a break, I'm sorry. But Ben's not having it. Ben is ready to fight Reed, but Reed uses his like stretchy powers to stop him from fighting. And then once Ben calms down, he's like, you know what? I'm done. I am not helping you guys anymore. So good luck. He goes and Susan eventually runs after him. but she, doesn't catch up to him. And then she sees Johnny. Johnny and Susan have an interaction. They have a fight. Because of that, Reed decides to go into the storm machine, use it on himself. And Susan, who's in the elevator, feels like something's wrong. She goes, runs in there, sees that the machine is on. She sees Reed, he comes out, and he looks normal until his body just starts like melting. He's on the floor, he passes out, and she goes to help him. So they're upstairs. While they're upstairs, Victor somehow finds a way to get into Reed's place. Someone gets Ben for him. Victor tells Ben he found a way to get the machine to work. Ben goes into the machine. Victor opens up something. He puts his arm in it, and then Ben is now human. Ben walks out. He's like, oh, this is crazy. I'm human again. And then he sees Victor and he's like, what did you do? Victor's like, hey, you really didn't want to have powers. You're weak. I'm strong. He attacks Ben. So Ben is out. And then we see Reed on the top floor and he's like, what are you doing? And then they have a fight scene, but that doesn't work out for Reed. And then Victor kidnaps Reed. Susan and Johnny runs in and they see Ben. He is now human. So they're like, oh wow, what happened? So Ben tells them what happened. Susan and Johnny are like, okay, what are we gonna do? Victor shoots something at their direction. So Johnny jumps off the building and starts flying, and the device starts following him into the ocean. Susan is still with Ben and she's like, hey, look, stay here. I'm gonna go and get Reed. Victor froze Reed because he's, I don't know, I guess he's leather or something. She tries to save him, but that doesn't work out because Victor can kind of see her. They start fighting. Johnny comes in, he starts fighting, but they're losing until Ben comes in because he went back into the storm machine to get his powers back. Him and Victor / Dr. Doom starts fighting, and they fight so much that they jump out of the window and they land on the street. While that's happening, Susan is getting Reed to defrost. Ben and Dr. Doom are still fighting, but Ben is starting to lose. Dr. Doom is about to crush him with this metal pole thing, but then the Fantastic Four, the rest of the group of the Fantastic Four shows up and they're like, hey, not today. So they start working together. Reed traps Doom with his body, and then Ben, he helps Reed. Johnny then starts going supernova. So in one of the montages, Johnny is working on how hot he could get, but he went to supernova and they told him, like, don't go to supernova because you could, burn the whole city alive. So don't do that ever again. But then in this scene, they're like, hey, go supernova. He's like, but you told me not to. And he's like, just do it. And then Susan controls Johnny and uses her covering shield invisible thing to contain it. Ben helps Reed spray this water at Victor, and then he rusts. Victor stopped, and then we go to a boat scene. We see Johnny, he's talking to a bunch of girls, flirting, whatever. Then we see Alicia and Ben, they look cute together. And then we see Susan and Reed. They go to the front of the boat, it's private, they start talking. Reed gets down on one knee and he proposes. So they're like, oh, they're clapping. It's a cute, she says yes. And then we see Johnny. He messes with Ben. Ben is about to do something, but then Johnny flies into the sky and makes the Fantastic Four logo. And then the movie ends. Then we go to the end credit scene where the minion, he grabbed Dr. Doom / Victor, and now he's in this cargo ship. Okay, this is what I'm gonna say. Yes, the CGI was bad. Yes, there were some, cringy parts, but overall, this movie was fun. I don't understand why it has like a 25% on Rotten Tomatoes, because this movie is not that bad. I mean, certain things doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't know, going to space for research. I mean, people do go to space for research, but like for human diseases and stuff, and then it's some other stuff, but I can understand why people are like, this is kind of weird. The CGI and parts are bad, but it's not that distracting where it's like, I can't focus on the movie. But I loved their chemistry. Susan and Johnny felt like a brother and sister. Reed and Susan felt like, you know, they were gonna get together. Ben and Reed felt like they were best friends. Like, it felt good. I would say the only person that I wasn't really like about was Victor. He was kind of, I guess, intimidating, but not that much intimidating. They could have picked someone else for Dr. Doom, but the actor wasn't that bad, so. The movie did feel a little rushed in certain parts to me, but I don't know, I think it was still good, you know, it wasn't that bad. Kerry Washington playing a blind girl feels a little off. They could have just gotten someone who was blind to play that role, but you know, I don't think she did a bad job, but at the same time, I'm not in that community. The wife was annoying. I get it, but like, why? I don't know, she was just so rude. A lot of people were just mean to Ben. All Ben was trying to do was just live his life, but he found love, and that's great. I liked the movie. I don't think it was bad. You know, out of 10, would I give it a 10? No, I would give it like a 7.8. Like, it wasn't bad. I still enjoyed it. It was so funny. Chris Evans was amazing. And all the other actors were amazing, but you know, I had to point out Chris Evans. So yeah, check it out. It's fun. Even though I really like this movie, I'm really excited for the new Fantastic Four movie. I'm excited to see where they go with this. So that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed me talking about this. I will see you guys next week. Goodbye. Ba, 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 ba. Fantastic Four. Ba, 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 ba. Fantastic Four.